the notion that when it comes to liberation, when it comes to struggle, that you're not only trying to get your claims to rights. The way that oppression works, it's also one that's trying to reclaim one's mind, one's soul, one's psychology. And so if that's the case, then when I think about resistance, I don't merely look at resistance as trying to get certain kind of politicians to create policies and to create laws. And if freedom was all that is, then we will be in chains in more ways than one, right? So I think that freedom is more than that, right? I think that even if one is still in chains, and we have our ancestors to attest to this, then one can still be free in their mind because they have not accepted their position, right, and have not accepted their state. And so when I'm thinking about kind of why anger is essential to anti-racist struggle, it's easy to think that anger is only useful when we have these political moments like a Black Lives Matter, when the news is paying attention, when you're going to the protests. And I want to say it does indeed have its uses in that particular regard. But when there's no longer any TV screens and people think that, anti-racist action is not taking place because there's no police violence happening on a screen, I want to say that resistance is still occurring and Lordean rage is still present. And so in making my argument, I basically says, yes, Lordean rage is productive to us to achieve these political aims. But there's another kind of work in very different spheres that Lordean rage is doing, right? And that's why in the chapter 2, in which I'm really making my first argument, is I basically says that one of the things that Lordean rage does, it ascribes values to lives, right? It basically says that your life matters, that the person who's being oppressed, the person who's being demonized, the person who's a recipient or a victim to injustice, the larger society may not think that their life matter, but me in response, an effective response to their oppression is anger, and that's simply saying that their life matters. Right? This doesn't require that any politician hears or sees that anger from me to make that proclamation over that person's life or whoever I'm in solidarity with, right? So I wanted to make room for when the oppressor and when politicians are not in the room. What is anger doing in that particular space? And I want to say that yes, Lordean rage is doing something on the front lines, but it's also doing something when no one's around, right? And I really mean that literally, when no one is around. Right? And so when I talk about breaking racial rules, that even if I'm at work and my boss do something racist, and I got to think about, do I want this check next week? Okay, I'm not going to go off. I don't want to get fired. But I'm responding. I'm having an affective response in which I'm reminding myself, he doesn't think I matter. Right? But I matter. In that moment, I'm saying that resistance is happening. So I'm making space for not only the political or stereotypical notions or popular notions of the political, but also the personal, also the psychological, also the private, that resistance is happening, the affirmation is happening in those contexts in which anger is very much playing a major role. And so to answer your question more directly, Lordean rage has a place. Its uses are being manifested in very different spaces, and I want us to be very, very, very aware of that. And so that's why I make the claim later on in that chapter, is that so that we can know that there are resistance figures among us, right? You don't have to be a charismatic leader. You don't have to lead a protest. You don't even have to go to the protest, but simply you responding with anger to the oppression, to the injustice of yourself or to other people. And that's a beginning that one is engaging in resistance in that very moment.